It started with a scream, a shrill, entitled, rage-soaked scream that pierced through our quiet Sunday afternoon like shattered glass slicing open a wound. I was in the kitchen pouring lemonade when I heard it. "Stop filming me, you little freak!" The voice exploded from outside. It was Karen. Again. My heart dropped. By the time I reached the front porch, my blind daughter, Ava, was standing there frozen, cane in one hand, her headphones dangling awkwardly around her neck. Her face was pale, confused, hurt. Karen stood just a few feet away on the sidewalk, her finger trembling with anger, pointing straight at Ava's face like it was a loaded gun. "She's been recording me," Karen spat. "I know what you're doing. You've been spying on me and my property. You people think you can get away with anything in this neighborhood." I rushed between them. "She's blind, Karen. She can't even see you." Karen's eyes narrowed. "Don't play dumb with me. Blind or not, she had a phone pointed directly at my house last week. And just now, I saw her holding it up again. I'm not stupid." Ava opened her mouth, but no words came out. Her lips quivered, and for the first time in years, she reached for me like a scared child. I turned to Karen, trying to keep calm. She was listening to an audiobook. That's all. Ava can't even use a camera without help. Karen scoffed. "Sure, an audiobook. That's the new excuse, huh?" Her voice grew louder, shriller. "I won't be gaslight. Not by her. Not by you. I've seen her. I've seen you people walking around here like you own the place. Always listening, always recording. Well, not anymore." She took a step forward. That's when I raised my hand and said firmly, "Step back. Now." I could see the neighbors starting to peek through their blinds. The Johnsons across the street pulled their little dog inside. An engine slowed as a passing car crept along, the driver glancing nervously at the unfolding scene. Karen's voice dropped to a venomous whisper. "You're all the same. You pretend to be victims until someone dares to call you out. Then it's all tears and lawsuits." Before I could respond, she suddenly turned her fury back to Ava. "You want to live here? Then act like it. Stop spying. Stop invading our peace. And you," she turned to me, her finger now stabbing the air, "better control your daughter before this neighborhood does it for you." Ava whimpered and stepped back toward the door. I saw the exact moment her lip trembled. I hadn't seen that look since she was 6 and got lost at the mall. Pure panic, pure confusion, and I could feel my blood boiling. "Karen," I said slowly, "you're harassing a child. My child. A blind child. Back off." Then something snapped. Karen's face twisted. She looked down at our flower bed, picked up a decorative stone, a smooth, rounded rock Ava had painted blue just last summer, and without hesitation, she hurled it toward the window behind me. Crash! The glass shattered. Ava screamed. I spun around instinctively, shielding her from the flying shards. Bits of glass sparkled in the sunlight as they hit the floor. Silence hung in the air like a bomb that had just gone off. Then came the sound of sirens, faint but growing. Karen stood there, her chest heaving, still clutching the second rock in her hand. That's when everything changed. 3 months before that window shattered, our life was quiet, peaceful even. We had just moved into Willow Creek, a small, picture-perfect suburban neighborhood on the edge of town. The kind with HOA newsletters, freshly trimmed hedges, and neighbors who waved at you while jogging in the morning. We weren't rich, not by a long shot, but after years of saving and struggle, we finally managed to buy a modest 2-story home at the edge of the cul-de-sac. For me, it was more than property, it was a fresh start. For Ava, my 12-year-old daughter, it was a promise. She had been blind since birth. Retinal degeneration, the doctors said. There was no cure, not even hope of one. But if you ever met her, you'd forget about that in the first 5 minutes. She was funny, sharp, a little sarcastic, and brave in ways even grown men envy. She never let her disability define her. She loved music, could recognize songs by the first 3 notes, and devoured audiobooks like candy. But even warriors get tired. Even brave girls want a break from stares and whispers. Willow Creek was supposed to be that break. We moved in during spring. Ava spent her afternoons on the porch swing with her earbuds in, rocking slowly while narrating parts of her favorite stories out loud. I'd catch her reciting lines from Harry Potter or Sherlock Holmes with different voices. It wasn't just impressive, it was comforting to hear her escape into worlds where people like her weren't treated like broken puzzles. My wife, Sarah, threw herself into gardening. I worked remotely as a freelance architect. Life was calm, normal, until we met Karen. She lived 3 houses down. Her yard was immaculate, as if it were maintained by a military unit. No trash cans visible, no overgrown plants. American flag folded perfectly. She never smiled. Not once. The first time she spoke to me was about our mailbox. It's slightly off-center, she said bluntly, handing me a printout of HOA mailbox regulations. No introduction. No welcome. Just rules. I try to laugh it off. Well, that's easy to fix. It should have been right the first time, she replied, already turning to walk away. Sarah tried to bake her cookies the next week. Karen didn't even open the door, just left a note. Outside. We don't accept perishables from strangers. HOA policy, see page 4. That was the beginning. Over the next few weeks, we noticed things. Notes left on our car windshield. An anonymous complaint to the HOA about Ava's loud talking outside. Another one about our trash bins being pulled in 15 minutes late. Petty things, but targeted. Ava didn't notice at first. She just smiled and kept swinging, kept reciting, kept humming her stories. Until one day, Karen walked by and muttered loud enough to be heard. That girl's always listening, always got some device on, probably recording all of us. I was standing behind the screen door. When she said it, Ava froze. She wasn't sure who it was. She couldn't see Karen, but she heard the venom. And for the first time, I saw her confidence crack. That night, she asked, "Dad, do you think people are scared of me? Because I'm blind." My heart broke in places I didn't know it could. I sat on her bed, held her hand, and said, "They're not scared of you, sweetheart. They're scared of what they don't understand. And that's their weakness, not yours." But I knew it wasn't over. I had no idea how much worse it would get. The first real confrontation came on a Wednesday. It was late afternoon. I had just finished a virtual meeting and was closing my laptop when I heard Ava's voice calling from the front yard. "Dad, is someone out here with me?" I rushed outside. She was standing on the porch, gripping her cane a little tighter than usual. Her earbuds were still in, dangling loosely, and her phone was tucked into her hoodie pocket. Her face looked off, nervous, slightly shaken. Then I saw Karen standing across the street with her phone out, filming, not hiding it, not pretending, just recording my daughter. "What the hell are you doing?" I shouted as I moved toward her. Karen didn't flinch. I have the right to document suspicious activity in the neighborhood. She's 12, and she's blind. Karen smirked. Blind or not, she's always holding a device, always walking around with it aimed at people's houses. That's not normal. She listens to audiobooks. Sure she does. That's what spies say, too. I stared at her, stunned. "You think my daughter is a spy?" She snapped her phone shut. "All I know is I didn't move into this neighborhood to be watched, tracked, or monitored. And if the HOA won't take care of it, then I will." I walked away before I lost control. But deep down, I knew something had shifted. This wasn't just petty HOA drama anymore. This was paranoia. Karen wasn't complaining, she was convinced. Later that evening, Ava asked, "Was that her again? The lady with the weird voice?" "Yeah," I said softly. "She was just passing by." But Ava wasn't a fool. "She thinks I'm recording people, doesn't she?" I hesitated, then nodded. Ava laughed, but there was no joy in it. "That's ridiculous. I can't even frame a shot." I sat beside her. It's not about truth. It's about fear. And some people like her, they feed on it. The next day, things escalated. We received an official letter from the HOA board. It cited multiple neighbor concerns about a family member visibly and consistently aiming electronic devices toward private residences. The letter politely reminded us of community privacy expectations. It was clearly from Karen. Sarah was furious. She's targeting Ava. This is harassment. I agreed. But how do you prove malicious intent when the other side claims they're just protecting the neighborhood? Still, I refuse to let fear dictate our lives. Ava continued enjoying her porch time, her audiobooks, her small joys. But I started watching. Closely. A week later, I caught Karen again. This time she was crouching behind her bushes, phone raised, filming Ava while whispering something into a small earpiece. That was the moment I called the HOA. I have a question, I told the board president. If someone's daughter is being filmed every day by another neighbor and false complaints are being filed, when does that cross into harassment? There was silence. We can look into it, they said flatly. No, you'll do more than look into it, I snapped. Because if this doesn't stop, the next person I'm calling isn't you. It's the police. From that day forward, Karen stopped hiding. She stared openly. She glared whenever Ava passed. And then she started walking her dog up and down the street, but only when Ava was outside. It was no longer passive aggression. It was psychological warfare. One afternoon, Ava whispered to me, "Can I just stay inside today?" That's when I knew Karen was winning. And I wasn't going to let that happen. A week passed, then another. And with each day, the tension coiled tighter around our home, like a storm cloud that refused to break, but never stopped rumbling. Karen wasn't just watching anymore. She was mobilizing. It started with whispers, subtle, poisonous ones, spreading through the neighborhood like mold. People we used to wave to suddenly turned cold. The elderly woman next door stopped greeting Ava. A jogger who used to smile now crossed the street. I even overheard two moms at the local park muttering, "It's that house, the one with the girl." Our world was shrinking. And Karen? She acted like a queen. She walked around like she owned every inch of sidewalk, clipboard in hand, always documenting, always monitoring compliance. A self-appointed enforcer of some unspoken law, one where children like Ava weren't welcome. One morning, Sarah found a notice taped to our mailbox. Final warning. Excessive porch occupancy during quiet hours. Quiet hours? What quiet hours? Sarah tore the note in half and looked at me with tears welling up. We made a mistake moving here. No, I said, she's the mistake. I tried reporting her to the HOA again. I even showed them a photo I'd taken of her filming Ava from behind her fence. But the response was weak, bureaucratic. Without clear evidence of harassment, we can't take action. Try speaking with her calmly. Mediation might help. Maybe your daughter could spend more time indoors for now. I almost slammed the phone down. That evening, I told Ava what happened. She just sat quietly on the porch swing, gently swaying. The sun had dipped below the trees, casting golden light across her pale face. "I used to love this place," she said softly. "You still can," I replied. "I don't think it loves me back. That broke me in places I didn't know existed. Still, I tried to be strong, tried to protect her from how deep this poison had spread. But Karen wasn't done. The next day, she knocked on our door, not with rage this time, but with something worse, a smile. "I've taken the liberty of starting a petition," she said sweetly. "Several residents agree that constant phone activity by minors is making people uncomfortable, especially given today's security concerns." She handed Sarah a clipboard. "This isn't a suggestion. It's a warning." Sarah slammed the door in her face. We thought that was the peak. It wasn't. 2 days later, Ava's cane went missing. We searched everywhere, under bushes, behind chairs, even inside the garage. Gone. Ava tried to brush it off. "I have a backup," she whispered. "It's fine." But it wasn't fine. Because that night, I found it, her cane, snapped in half, lying in the gutter near Karen's mailbox. She had thrown it away. Like trash, like my daughter was trash. That's when I lost it. I marched down to Karen's house, pounded on the door, and when she opened it, I stared her dead in the eyes. I don't care what lies you tell the neighborhood. I don't care how many fake petitions you push. But you lay one more finger on anything my daughter owns, one more, and you'll be explaining it to a judge. Karen smirked. "Is that a threat?" "No," I said coldly. "It's a promise." She closed the door slowly, but in her eyes, I saw something different that night. Not anger, not superiority, but something close to fear. I thought maybe that would be the end. I was wrong. She had one more card to play, and when she did, it would tear through our lives like a grenade. It happened on a Saturday morning. Ava was inside, curled up with her audiobook, and of Green Gables, I think. Sarah was watering the garden. I was fixing a loose panel on the backyard fence when the doorbell rang. Two police officers stood on the porch. "Mr. Bennett?" the taller one asked. "We received a report about potential surveillance activity taking place on your property." I blinked. "What?" The second officer glanced down at a notepad. "A neighbor claims your daughter has been recording them without consent, possibly using assistive tech to gather personal information." My jaw clenched. "You mean the blind child? The one who can't even operate a camera?" The officers didn't answer directly. "We'd like to ask a few questions. Take a look at any devices she regularly uses: phones, tablets, audio gear." I felt my heart pounding in my chest. "She listens to audiobooks." That's it. Sarah appeared in the doorway, panic rising in her voice. "Is she in trouble?" "No, ma'am," the taller one said quickly. "It's not a criminal investigation at this point. We just have to follow up on complaints made to the department." I felt something shift in me, a protective instinct so strong I had to swallow hard to keep it from exploding out as rage. "Let me guess," I said. "Karen." The officers exchanged a brief look, which told me everything. "This is harassment," I snapped. "She's using your department to intimidate a child." Again, no comment. But they left soon after, polite but unconvinced, and we were left standing in the living room in silence. Ava came down the stairs moments later. "Were those cops?" Neither of us said anything. She nodded. "It was her, wasn't it?" I sat down beside her. "She's scared of you." Ava gave a hollow laugh. "I wish I had that kind of power." But I could see it. Something inside her was cracking. And once that crack gets deep enough in a child, it never fully heals. That evening, I attended the HOA meeting. Karen was there, naturally, seated at the front like she owned the place, her fake smile plastered on as she shuffled through papers. "I'd like to raise a motion," she said, standing confidently, "to establish a formal neighborhood policy against audiovisual monitoring by minors, especially when said minors are known to carry electronic devices at all times and have previously been the subject of privacy complaints." There was an awkward silence. Someone whispered, "She's talking about the Bennett girl," Karen went on. "I've consulted legal counsel. It's not illegal to propose safety guidelines that protect our homes and families from digital intrusion." I stood up. "This is ridiculous." She turned to face me, still smiling. "We all want to feel safe in our homes, Mr. Bennett." "She's blind," I said. "Your fear is based on ignorance." Karen raised an eyebrow. "Is it? Or is it based on the fact that every time I leave my house, someone's standing across the street with a phone pointed at me?" Murmurs erupted in the room. The HOA president tried to calm things down, but the damage was done. Karen had planted enough doubt. Her lies, said often enough and confidently enough, were starting to take root. That night, I found Ava crying in a room. "I just want to disappear," she whispered. I knelt beside her bed, brushing her hair away from her face. "Don't let her win." "But I'm tired of fighting." I closed my eyes. I understood. God, I understood. The next morning, it got worse. Much worse. I was upstairs, grabbing laundry when I heard a thud, then another, then a crash. Glass. I raced downstairs and found Sarah holding Ava tightly near the couch, both of them ducking low. A brick had shattered the living room window. Another lay cracked on the driveway, next to Ava's favorite beanbag. Outside, I caught a glimpse of a figure storming away. Karen. I didn't even think. I sprinted outside, shouting her name, heart racing, fists clenched. "Are you out of your mind?" She spun around. "You've been warned. You threw a brick at my house. My daughter she was filming again this morning." Karen screamed, unhinged now. "Pointed right at my house. Don't think I didn't see it." You people are trying to destroy my life. I reach for my phone, hands shaking. You're going to jail for this. Karen laughed, manic, brittle, and bitter. I'll tell the cops it was self-defense. Digital harassment. Threats to my property. You threw a rock at a blind child. She's not really blind, she snapped, voice low and cruel. You just say that so she can get away with things. That's when Ava appeared behind me, silent, bleeding from a tiny cut on her cheek, a shard of flying glass. The moment she whispered, "Dad," Karen froze. That one word, so fragile and pure, cut through the chaos like thunder. I looked back at her, and for the first time since we moved here, I felt hate. But I also felt clarity. This wasn't just bullying anymore. This was war. And Karen had just made a fatal mistake. The police came back within the hour. But this time, it wasn't for an investigation. This time I called them, and they brought backup. A squad car parked at the curb. An officer, Sergeant Hill, a calm, stocky man with tired eyes, approached the house while his partner spoke with a small gathering of neighbors who had wandered outside after hearing the crash. I handed over the shattered brick, still stained with driveway dust. I pointed out the broken window. I showed them the cut on Ava's cheek. Then I handed them our security footage. The irony wasn't lost on me. Karen had spent weeks accusing us of spying, of recording her, when we had never pointed a lens at her once. But I had quietly installed a security cam over the garage last week, facing our own front yard, after Ava's cane went missing. And now that footage showed exactly what needed to be shown. Karen, crouched low, tossing the first brick from across the street. Karen, storming off after the second throw. Karen, completely unprovoked. Sergeant Hill watched the clip twice. He said nothing at first, just adjusted his belt and nodded slowly. This isn't just vandalism, he finally said. It could be classified as assault, especially if a minor was injured. I looked at Ava, who was now sitting on the couch wrapped in a blanket, her face blank. She hadn't cried again. She hadn't said a word. She just sat still. Sergeant Hill turned to me. We'll need to talk to her. Not tonight, I said firmly. She needs rest. He nodded. Understood. But I'm placing a call to Child Protective Services. Not about your family, he added quickly, but for a full investigation on the harassment claim. From what I'm seeing, this isn't a one-time thing. I finally exhaled. Outside, things were shifting. A few neighbors had stepped onto their lawns, whispering. Mrs. Alvarez from across the street stared at the broken glass, her eyes wide. The Johnsons looked visibly uncomfortable. The HOA president, Mr. Langston, arrived 10 minutes later in khakis and a trembling voice. I heard there was an incident, he mumbled. Karen called me earlier. Said you were threatening her. I laughed, bitter and tired. She attacked her home. My daughter's hurt, and now the police are involved. So, Langston, either your HOA defends this lunatic or you do the right thing. He paled. We will schedule an emergency board meeting. Do that. The ambulance arrived soon after. Not for Ava, for Karen. Apparently, she had collapsed in her kitchen after seeing the officers approach. Claimed she had a panic attack. Said her blood pressure spiked. Said she feared for her life. And yet, somehow, she still managed to scream at the EMTs about being targeted. I want him arrested, she shouted from her stretcher. They've been tormenting me for months. They hacked my Wi-Fi. They're spying through my walls. It would have been laughable if it wasn't so terrifying. Ava stood beside me quietly and asked, will she go to jail? I don't know. I said, honestly. She should, she replied flatly. She knew I was blind. And she still hated me. I didn't know what to say. But I did know this. That moment, standing there on the porch, Ava beside me, the entire neighborhood watching the fallout, was the breaking point. Not just for us. For everyone. The next morning, I woke to over 300 new messages on my phone. Someone had posted the security footage. Not me. One of the neighbors, a teenager from 3 houses down, had uploaded it to Reddit. The title read, HOA psycho attacks blind girl, gets instant karma. Within hours, it spread like wildfire. By noon, it hit local news. By dinner national. By midnight, Ava's name was trending on Twitter. People were outraged. Strangers around the world were sending messages of support. Celebrities reposted the footage. Advocacy groups reached out. A well-known disability rights lawyer even offered free representation. And Karen? Karen disappeared. Gone from her home. No lights. No car. Just silence behind her perfect blinds. The HOA issued a public statement the next day. Willow Creek Community Homeowners Association does not tolerate harassment of any kind, and effective immediately, Karen B. has been removed from all board responsibilities pending legal proceedings. It wasn't justice. Not yet, but it was a start. That night, Ava sat on the porch again, for the first time in days, headphones in, a new cane in hand, a slight smile returning to her face. "Do you think people are scared of me now?" she asked playfully. I smiled. "No, but maybe they should be." She laughed, a real warm laugh, the kind I hadn't heard in weeks. And for the first time since we moved into Willow Creek, I finally believed we were going to be okay. The morning after Karen's meltdown, we found 3 things on our porch: a bouquet of white tulips from Mrs. Alvarez with a handwritten card that simply read, "I'm sorry I didn't speak up sooner." A folded HOA letter announcing Karen's formal suspension from all community responsibilities until further notice. A voicemail from the local police department requesting Ava's full statement, this time to build a case for criminal harassment and assault. Things were moving fast. The incident had ignited a wildfire online, and the press wasn't letting go. Reporters called our home nonstop. Bloggers debated the ethics of HOA powers. Advocacy pages turned Ava into a quiet hero, the bravest girl on the block. Even a morning show reached out, offering to fly us out for a segment. We turned them all down. Ava didn't want attention. She just wanted her peace back. But it didn't matter. The world had already chosen its side. At school, the few days she attended after the incident, teachers gave her extra time. Classmates, once awkward around her disability, now treated her with a mix of admiration and guilt. Even the shy boy who used to mock her cane left her a gift bag with candy and a note that read, "You're stronger than I'll ever be." Still, Ava was quiet, not withdrawn, just reflective, like something inside her had changed permanently. One evening, I found her sitting outside again, earbuds in, head tilted back to feel the wind. "You okay, sweetheart?" I asked, sitting beside her. She nodded. "I'm fine. Just thinking." About what? A pause. About how many people probably live their whole lives thinking they're invisible until someone decides to hate them. That hit me harder than I expected. "You're not invisible," I said. "I know," she replied softly. But Karen thought I was less. That I wouldn't fight back. That no one would care. I looked at her. And she was wrong. Ava smiled. Yeah, she was. A few days later, Sergeant Hill returned with an official update. Based on the footage, testimony, and community statements, he told us the district attorney is moving forward with charges: property damage, assault on a minor, and harassment. He looked at Ava. "You don't need to testify in court unless you're comfortable." Ava was silent for a long time. Then she asked, "Will she go to jail?" "That depends on her plea," Hill answered. "But either way, her record will never be clean again." "Good," Ava whispered. Sarah placed a hand on her shoulder. "You don't have to carry her anymore." "I know," Ava said, "but maybe I was meant to stop her, so no one else has to." The HOA held an emergency neighborhood meeting a week later, and this time, things were different. Gone were the passive glances and stiff silences. People spoke. Mrs. Johnson apologized for avoiding Ava. The retired veteran on the corner admitted he once believed Karen's lies and regretted it deeply. Several parents pushed for a new committee to promote inclusivity and disability awareness. It wasn't just about Ava anymore. It was about everyone Karen had tried to silence. The president of the HOA cleared his throat near the end of the meeting. "We want to extend a formal apology to the Bennett family and especially Ava for not acting sooner, for not listening." Ava stood slowly. Her voice, when she spoke, was clear, not loud, but steady. "I didn't ask to be part of this." I didn't want to be anyone's lesson. I just wanted to sit on my porch and listen to stories. But sometimes the world doesn't give you peace unless you make it. She turned to leave, and the entire room, all 40 neighbors, stood and clapped, even the ones who hadn't said a word before. That night, as we closed the windows, a breeze rolled through the house. The kind of breeze that feels like a reset, like someone opened a window in your soul. Ava was already in bed, asleep with her headphones in. Sarah sat beside me, on the couch. "Do you think we should move?" she asked. "Start fresh?" I looked around. At the repaired window, at the cane resting by the door, at the porch Ava had reclaimed. "No," I said. "We don't run. Not anymore." The courthouse smelled like cold coffee and nerves. We didn't want to be there, Ava especially. But the subpoena came anyway, a formal request for her appearance at the hearing. Karen had entered a not guilty plea on all charges. She wanted a public defense, claimed we were lying, that the videos were edited, that she had been harassed first. It was all an act, one final attempt to rewrite the truth. We walked into that courtroom as a family. Karen was already seated at the defense table, wearing beige slacks, a navy cardigan, and that same frozen expression she wore the day she accused Ava of spying. But her eyes, they were different now, darker, emptier. Her lawyer, some overpaid suburban specialist, tried to spin it all, claimed Karen had reasonable suspicion that her privacy was being violated, that she feared retaliation, that her actions were a response to repeated digital aggression. But the judge, an older woman with silver-rimmed glasses and no patience for theatrics, interrupted. "Are you claiming a blind child orchestrated a neighborhood-wide surveillance campaign?" The room went still. Karen's attorney stumbled, but before he could answer, the prosecution rolled the footage again. The throw, the shatter, Ava's face, silence. The judge leaned forward. "I see no ambiguity here." Then came the testimony. I spoke first. Calm, controlled, gritted teeth but no theatrics. I told them about the whispers, the missing cane, the false reports. About Ava's fear, my wife's tears. Then they called Ava. She stood slowly. Her footsteps were small but steady. I wanted to walk beside her. I wanted to protect her. But this part she needed to do alone. The clerk raised a hand. "Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth?" "I do," Ava said. Then she found her seat. The prosecutor kept it simple. "Ava, do you know who Karen is?" "Yes," she replied softly. "Did you ever record her?" "No. I wouldn't even know how." "Why not?" A pause. "I'm blind." It echoed in the room like thunder. The prosecutor stepped back. "What did you feel when the brick came through your window?" Ava breathed slowly. "I felt glass on my skin. My cheek stung. But the part that hurt most was realizing someone hated me for existing." Even the court reporter stopped typing for a second. Karen didn't move. No apology. No tears. Just silence. The verdict came quickly. Guilty on all counts. Karen was fined, sentenced to 6 months of probation, court-mandated anger management, and ordered to stay 200 feet away from our property or Ava at all times. It wasn't jail, but it was on record. She would never erase it. And to Ava, that was enough. But it didn't end there. Back at Willow Creek, the HOA called a final special session. They invited the entire community. Not in the meeting hall this time, but on the community green. Outdoor seating, microphones, and a vote. Karen didn't show, but her shadow loomed large as the board president stepped up to the mic. "We failed," he said. "And now, we vote not only to permanently remove Karen B. from any future leadership roles, but to rebuild the trust we lost." Then, something unexpected happened. A neighbor stood up. "Mr. Lynn, a quiet man who had never spoken at any meeting. I propose we rename the community reading bench in Ava's honor," he said. "She's shown more courage than anyone in this neighborhood ever has." A moment of stunned silence. Then applause. One by one, hands rose in favor. Unanimous. That weekend, they repainted the bench under the big maple tree near the park. A new sign was mounted. "Ava's Corner, a place to sit, listen, and be heard." She didn't say much when she saw it, just sat quietly, ran her fingers across the letters, and smiled. The days after the verdict were quieter than we expected. No more Karen. No more notes. No more strange stares or cold shoulders. The air in Willow Creek felt different, lighter, warmer, as if the neighborhood had exhaled after holding its breath too long. But Ava? She was still carrying something, something unseen. She didn't talk much about the courtroom, or the broken window, or the way Karen's voice used to echo in her nightmares. Instead, she started spending time at Ava's Corner, the newly named bench under the maple tree. She brought her headphones, her favorite Braille books, and her silence. Not sad silence, just stillness. Reflection. One afternoon, I walked by and saw her sitting beside a much younger girl, maybe 7 or 8. The girl was asking questions fast and curious. How do you read that? Can you tell what color my dress is? Does being blind hurt? Ava answered each one patiently, kindly. Later that night, I asked what happened. She said her older brother used to tease a blind boy at school, Ava said, but after seeing the video, he cried. He told her I was a hero. You are a hero, I said. She shook her head. No, I was just tired of being invisible. A week later, Ava surprised us again. She asked if she could make a short video, her own voice, no camera, just audio and captions, to share what happened. I want to talk, she said, but I want to talk in my way. We helped her record it in one take. Just her, speaking honestly. I didn't ask to be the center of this. I never wanted to be famous. I just wanted to read my stories and hear the wind. But someone decided I was a threat because I existed differently. I don't hate her. I feel sorry for her. Because if you can't see the humanity in someone who can't see you, then maybe you're the one who's blind. The video went viral again. But this time, it wasn't shock that fueled the shares. It was grace. Within a month, Ava had received letters from disability rights organizations, authors, teachers, and even city officials. One foundation offered her a role as a youth accessibility ambassador. A local radio station invited her to co-host a children's book hour. She accepted. Slowly, Ava was becoming a voice for more than herself. She didn't do it for fame. She did it because she could. Because something inside her had shifted from wounded to wise. One night, as I was tucking her into bed, she whispered, "Do you think maybe all of this was supposed to happen?" I paused. "What do you mean?" She shrugged, under the covers. Maybe it had to get really dark, so I could learn how bright I actually am. I felt my throat tighten. "You were always bright," I said. Maybe she smiled. But now, I believe it. 3 months after the court case, something unexpected happened. We received a letter. Not from a lawyer. Not from the HOA. From Karen. It was handwritten. No return address. No apology. Just 2 sentences. "You ruined my life. I hope you're proud." I still don't believe she's really blind. I stared at it for a long time. Sarah wanted to burn it. I wanted to frame it, not as a trophy, but as a reminder. Ava? She just laughed. "That's her final word," she said, mused. "Good. Now I can write mine." A few weeks later, Ava stepped onto a stage. It was a local youth conference, small auditorium, about 200 people. She was invited to speak during a segment titled "Resilience in the Face of Injustice." She had written her speech herself. No notes, no coaching. She stood at the podium with her cane by her side, took a breath, and let the silence settle. Then she began. A woman once told me I made her feel unsafe because she didn't understand me. She was afraid of my phone, my headphones, my quiet. She thought silence meant secrecy. That blindness meant deception. But the truth is, she just never listened. People like me don't need to see the world to feel it. We don't need to prove our worth. We just want to be left alone in peace. But sometimes peace is only possible when someone stands up and says, "Enough. I didn't win with anger. I didn't fight her with fists. I just told the truth, and the world heard me." So, if anyone here today feels invisible, remember this. You're not a shadow. You're the reason others will learn how to see. The room erupted into a standing ovation. Tears, applause, pure silence between breaths. Ava stepped down, guided by nothing but her own steps. And for the first time in a long, long time, I realized something. Karen hadn't broken Ava. She'd revealed her. Later that night, we sat on the porch. The air smelled of jasmine and fresh cut grass. Ava was quiet again, not withdrawn, just full. "Do you think she'll ever stop hating me?" she asked. I looked up at the stars. "Maybe," I said. "Maybe not, but that's not your burden anymore." She nodded. Then, with a little grin, "She was right about one thing, though." "What's that?" I was listening. To what? To everything. The wind, the lies, the silence, the hurt, and the strength. She turned to me and smiled wide. "And I'm done being quiet,"